The world today is about grabbing attention. Freelancers try to grab clients' attention, big brands and applications try to grab your attention, and you try to grab your crush's attention. As designers, it is very important for us to understand all these powerful mind techniques so that you can use these principles anytime you are designing an app. Today, we will understand the law of priming. There's a lot to cover, a lot of resources and use cases are on the way. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So, today we'll understand basics of priming in UX design. The entire video is split into 3 modules. We'll first understand how some very popular websites and apps influence our decisions when we use them through the principle of priming, which is a very cool psychological hack. Then we'll see 3 secret techniques that a lot of companies use, and these 3 techniques are the most effective ones. So how can you use them in your projects? And then in the very end, I will share some free study material and resources that you can use to upskill yourself. Let's begin with module number 1. Let's understand what exactly is priming and how do we see it in the real life. Before I give you digital examples, read the following sentence. The aroma of garlic bread had spread all across our bakery. Correct? Now fill in the blanks. Take some time. And there's a huge chance that you would think that this word is butter. Now my question is, this could have been banter, this could have been barter, it could have been better as well. But just because I made you read this specific sentence before asking you this question, there were some triggers in your brain that pushed you to think about the word butter when you saw the blanks. Now this phenomena is called priming. Now I have a very interesting example. Here you have 2 grids in front of you. In the first grid you have bread, juice, milk, and simply because we're talking about food, there's a huge chance that you would think that this is soup. Whereas on the right side, if you see towel, shower, shampoo, you would probably think about soap. So this is your brain getting primed by all the words that came before the blank. Now, how do you use this as a designer? And why does this help us? See, priming is nothing but your ability to influence your users to take certain decisions or to think in a specific way. So if you're designing a user journey that subtly communicates without being very explicit, then you have successfully primed your user to do something. Let's take at this screenshot right here. So this is a checkout flow, okay? And let me zoom in here. This is a checkout flow where you have a pop-up and it basically allows you to upgrade to the team plan. Now, if you look closely, you have the option to put in your billing information and you have a button that says confirm. Now, the fun part here is that if you were filling up this form, okay, let's just say I fill up my email address. When I come to this point, add promo code, there's a huge chance that my brain would think, am I paying more than what is usual? Am I missing a promo code? And a fun fact is that the very presence of a coupon box actually primes users to leave the checkout flow. If you have a big input field that says apply coupon code right in the flow, there's a huge chance that the user will think that he is missing out on a discount. So he will open a new tab and leave the checkout flow and first search if there's a coupon available or not. Now, what is the correct way? There are many ways to do this, but usually if we look at this program right here, so if we look at Maze, which is a user research tool, this is how they do it. They have some image on the right side and on the left they have number of seats, additional seats, and then they just keep a monthly and a yearly plan and their card details. Now, it is your own business decision whether you want to add a coupon code or not, but it is always better that instead of having a lot of promotional coupon codes which actually make people go hooked, instead of regularly giving out coupons, you should always have a consistent discount, and that plays better in the longer run, because if you're running discounts regularly, people get hooked to discounts, people get addicted to discounts, but people don't get addicted to free stuff, and people don't get addicted to this discount on a yearly plan. So I really like what platforms like Maze do as compared to this platform right here. So even theirs was not that explicit, but you would still find a lot of people exiting the checkout flow just by reading this. In Call of Duty, if you find a very powerful gun right in the middle of a gameplay, a lot of experienced gamers would start getting anxious because they know that if this game is giving us a very strong gun, there's a huge probability that you're gonna have a very difficult level ahead. So by default, getting a free gun is not a bad thing, but psychologically, because of your past experiences, your brain is primed into thinking that there's difficult gameplay ahead. In fact, priming exists outside the digital digital UX world as well. So we've discussed this again and again, that user experience is not just about apps or websites. User experience is basically your own perception, your own experience of using a product or going through an experience or even going through a store. So priming can also help you improve conversions in reality. So if you were to go to a departmental store, maybe like a Big Bazaar or a 24/7, or if you're outside and abroad, if you go to Target or Walmart, you would see that all the frequently bought items are either at the center or at the end of the store, which is very, very interesting, right? Because they want you to go through a long collection, a long list of products that they are selling to you before you reach the frequently purchased items. So your brain is sort of getting exposed to all the things that you can buy. So they are priming you. They've designed the journey in a way where you would end up buying more. In fact, a lot of museums and theme parks don't begin but always end with a gift shop. Now there are many reasons for it, right? So one reason could be that because you've gone through the museum, now your brain has attached more meaning to all of those items. Whereas as soon as you buy a ticket to an amusement park, you're not ready to spend more. But if the entire experience of the museum has been very, very inspiring, you still have a lot of incentive to buy something from the gift shop just to save it as a memory, correct? Now let's go out in the physical domain. Have you seen this magic mouse? So I personally love the Apple Magic Mouse, but there's something very, very special or very, very unique about it. The charging port is at the very bottom. It is not on the top, it is not on the side. So if I'm charging this, I have to keep it like this or keep it like this sideways. So I basically cannot use this mouse if I am charging it. Any other gadget, I can use it while charging, but in Magic Mouse, you can't. Now the thing is, Apple is not fixing this on purpose. There's a specific reason why the charging port is at the bottom and not at a place where you can use this mouse while charging. Let's take a step back. Let's imagine a use case where this charging port was not here, but was probably here at the very back. And imagine if I could use it while keeping it wired to a charging port. I am a very lazy user, so I would literally keep it wired at all times, simply because I know that I can use it while charging. But that wire would destroy the seamless wireless experience of using the Magic Mouse. So to make sure that the users are primed to use this mouse without a wire at all times, they have placed the charging port at the bottom. So the product is designed in this way that you will always remember the mouse being wireless and being seamless at all times. Now the question is, why do you need to spot these laws? There are two major reasons for it. Reason number one, anytime I discuss a law of user experience with someone, the listener assumes that I'm talking about apps. Whereas in reality, the principle of priming within user experience is now being used everywhere. It has been used in multiple industries for multiple use cases. So anytime you learn a law of UX, don't think that it is just restricted to applications. And when you're using something in person, when you're actually going through an experience, keep your eyes active, keep your brain active, and always look out for these small nudges. Reason number two, if I were to give you a simple definition of this law, you would probably imagine one use case or two use cases, that too in mobile apps. But in reality, the same law is dissolved and morphed and customized and then used in multiple places. So it is visible in many spots in different shapes and forms. So before we go to module number 2, let's revise everything that we learned in module number 1. And this number is incorrect. This basically means module number 1. We understood what is priming. We understood how do stores or apps actually keep you hooked or actually keep you buying more. In the very end, I gave you some examples of how business owners are actually influencing their customers' mind by showing them something at the start of the user journey just so that they can sell them something at the very end. So you can also influence your customers' behavior. Now let's understand some proper legit techniques in the world of user experience that many companies use to prime their users. Technique number 1 is availability heuristic, which is basically the brain's tendency to weigh easily and recently available information more than the old information. Now let me give you a very practical example. Let's just say that you wake up in the morning and you see this newspaper article which talks about road accidents. Okay, now if you start your morning with news about accidents, you would obviously drive slowly when you go to office, or your brain would probably be slightly more scary, or your brain would probably be more anxious, simply because I gave you a news item which induced some fear in you. Okay, now the chances of you being in an accident haven't actually increased. Now this is the interesting part. The probability of you getting into an accident remains the same, but just because you read some news item right at the start of your morning, your brain is now remembering that information. It is actually fading away from reality and giving more importance to recent information and not necessarily the right information. So the right information, the right analytical brain would tell you that statistically the things have remained the same. But just because you've consumed something right now, the nudge makes you more anxious. It doesn't make you scary, it makes you anxious. I have a lot of spelling mistakes in this one. So the UX lesson here is that remind a user of a problem they face. They might consider it a problem worth solving. Let's read this again. While pitching your product or while showcasing something, if you're selling to a customer, if you remind your users of a problem that they face, eventually they might consider it a problem worth solving at that time of the pitch. Now, how do you implement this? Let's go into the marketing side of things. Landing page copy should always talk about the problem it solves and not what it does. Now, let me give you a quick example of this. This is a screenshot of a website called artboard.studio, and from a features perspective, they have online graphics and motion designing features in the tool. But when you go to their website, are they talking about their features or what all they can do? No, they're talking about what they can do for you. So they're saying automate your design process for creative freedom. And then at the bottom in the subtext, they're talking about all the minute features. This is actually them reminding you about a problem that you're facing. So if their target ICP, which is the ideal customer profile, if their ICP comes up on their website, there's a huge chance that this person would click on this button right here. And notice how in the CTA it says try Artboard Studio for free, no credit card is required, and then they have also added social proof. But yeah, this is not a session on marketing design, we'll cover that later. Now there's another website called useform.co. So this website is an online form builder, but look at the copy that they have as soon as you enter their landing page. They say create an online form in minutes, right? And then forms are painful to create and integrate. Save development hours and embed it into your website in seconds. So this is how they are priming their users as soon as they land on their website. Apple is very, very good at this. So when Apple competes with its competitors, it doesn't talk about features or megapixels or resolution. It talks about the problems that the customers face. Shaky shots, stable video, a subtle way to stay in the know, tougher than any smartphone glass. So the subtext here is ceramic shield, which is in a smaller text, but tougher than any smartphone glass is the actual problem that the consumer can understand. Now let's understand technique number 2, which is attentional bias. Now this thing says that recurring thoughts in our brain change how we perceive reality. Again, the definition won't make sense to you. Let's see how this works. Have you noticed that the person who hates something is the first one to notice it? To give you a practical example, I have a cousin of mine and she's extremely afraid of cockroaches. So if we are going out, she would be the first person to notice the cockroach before anybody else. So your brain is very, very trained to find something that it dislikes. Now, how do you use this in UX design? The lesson here is that understand what people naturally avoid and remove all mentions of it in your user experience. If you remove it, you will essentially make the user experience more seamless. Now, how do you implement this? Don't say that we don't send you spam when they're signing up to your product. Now, this is a very, very simple use case. Of course, the use cases are endless, but I'm picking very, very subtle things because these are just foundational videos. Later on, I will be creating content which will go in depth. So right now, we're just picking some very, very small items. Another use case could be that never make them unnecessarily check a box for extra permissions or newsletters. Now, I'm not saying don't make them agree to the permissions or don't make them sign up to the newsletter. I'm saying that just by adding an extra checkbox, just by, saying the word we won't send you spam, you are reminding them of things that they don't like. Now, let me show you a quick example. This is a website called Took a Pic, okay? And it's basically for photo documentation. Here, when you're creating an account, they ask you your details and then they have 2 checkboxes. I agree to terms and conditions. I want to receive the newsletter. Start your 7-day trial. Relax, no payment details required at this point, okay? Now, of course, this is not bad. Visually also it looks very, very clean. But let me show you something that another app does. Their name is Allo, which is a restaurant manager. They have a single input field. They ask you for an email. They say that you will get a 6-digit code for verification. So it's an OTP login, not a password login. And it says that by proceeding, you agree to our privacy policy and terms and conditions. Now, do you see what they're doing here? On the very top, if a person has given email address, username, password, do you really think this person will not check this I agree box and not click on the CTA just by saying, oh, they've asked me a checkbox, now I will not create this account? Doesn't happen that way. This person wants to create an account. That is why this person is here. So it makes more sense to make this entire account creation process more seamless by just saying that by proceeding, we assume that you agree to all the terms and conditions. So I really, really like this login flow. I think it is way more cleaner, right? Another byproduct can be that understand what people dislike and use it to begin your product pitch. This is very, very similar to what we saw in the landing page example. But just to give you more references, there's a website called Headline, okay? And they have a copy that says, say goodbye to manually creating landing pages and writing copy. Now notice how if a person like me, and I have been working on landing pages, if a person like me comes here, I will be so happy to see this company identify my issues. So when you say goodbye to manually creating landing pages copy, because my brain hates creating landing page copy, it will first read manually creating landing pages. That is the first thing that it would see, and that would get my attention. There's another website, it's called breaksforeyes.app, and this is the copy that they had a while back. Have a headache or dry eyes at the end of the day? It's probably a computer vision syndrome. So notice how they got my attention, because my eyes do get dry, and when I saw this copy for the first time, my eyes first spotted this and then everything else. So it's crazy how you can prime your users into believing that your product is really good, right? Now let's come to technique number 3. This is queue dependent memories, and it says that memory aren't stored as individual objects but as connections and relationships. Now no, very complicated definition. Let me give you a quick example. There would be many times when a friend would tell you about some random party or some random incident, and you would not be able to remember it instantly. But if that person would say, no, you remember that night when we went into the black taxi, then your brain would be like, acha, now I remember. So even if you're not able to remember something specific, if your friend tells you something that is connected to that memory or something that happened on that day, you would instantly refresh and your brain would start to remember everything that happened then. So your brain is actually not in individual objects, it is a chain of thought. And if you discover one chain, then slowly you can remember everything around that one single memory. So how do you use this in UX design? So to put it down into simple words, memories are stored in the form of connections and not as individual objects. So how do you implement this in your apps? You can actually bring up one memory of your user to subtly remind them about something else, about your product, about your features, or anything else. For example, almost every app by Facebook and by Meta, they're doing this already, and Google also does this. So if you go to Facebook, you would realize that they now keep reminding you about all the good times that you used to have on Facebook. So they would say your stories from a year ago, your pictures from 3 years ago. Now what exactly is happening here? They are actually making you remember a time when you were very active on Facebook. And how are they doing that? By showing you pictures that you had posted back then on Facebook. Google Photos also does the same. When you open Google Photos, it says memories from 1 year ago, memories from 2 years ago. When you open Instagram also says memories 6 July 2022. Now there are 3 benefits of this entire thing. Benefit number 1, they remind you of a time when you were more active on this app. So then you realize, I used to be so active on this app, maybe I should start posting more. Second, you associate good memories with the app. If you're posting something online, it is probably because it has been a good memory. And when this app reminds you about a good memory, you feel happy about the app itself. And third, social proof. And just a reminder, you get more content simply because you are repurposing your old content. So if I'm not putting up a story on Instagram, just because of this, I might just repost. So it creates more content for the app itself, right? So I'm just reiterating the principle right here that if you use Google Photos or Facebook, it takes you back to a time when you were active and associates the app with a happy memory. So just to do a quick revision, and I apologize for all of these numbers being messed up, I will fix this. We understood the availability heuristic, which is our brain's reliance on recent information. We understood attentional biases as to what users notice first, and it is usually something that annoys them. And then we understood queue dependent triggers, which can help you influence a user into thinking that your app is associated with a good memory, right? And you've been using all of these things one by one. With that, we start module number 3. Due to some technical errors, we lost module 3 videos. However, the entire PDF of my PPT is available for download in description. You'll find all the free resources listed in that PDF. Thank you so much. Make sure you leave in a comment and hit the subscribe button, because we will be coming up with some very cool videos. I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra signing out. If you like this video, make sure you click on like and hit the subscribe button. I regularly upload videos on UX design, marketing, and storytelling.